Why Max Holloway will piece up Justin Gaethje.
His rhythm and striking will give Gaethje some problems.
Max is getting better. Max is looking better.
People think Max is small. Max isn't a small guy.
He's one of the best for sure. He has very good cardio, very good chin.
With it officially being UFC 300 Fight Week, a lot of people are extremely excited about this card, and more specifically about this BMF title fight. But in my opinion, although a lot of people are riding with Gaethje, I personally think Max Holloway has a real chance to win this fight, and I think he has a chance to win in pretty decisive fashion. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA, I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. When you look at the careers of both Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, they've both been extremely impressive. Of course, Max Holloway was an undisputed champ for a good amount of time, Justin Gaethje was an interim champ, but regardless of that fact, both of these guys have been able to have extremely successful careers, and not only were they able to beat a lot of impressive opponents, but they were also able to look extremely entertaining while doing so. So that's why when this fight was originally made, fans were extremely excited, because both of these guys are incapable of having boring fights. But although fans were extremely excited when this fight was announced, at the same time, many fans believed this fight would be very one-sided. As most fans are riding with Justin Gaethje, because when you look at Gaethje over his last few fights, it's pretty clear that this guy has made some significant improvements. Not only to his body, as he definitely has bulked up, he definitely looks the biggest he's ever really had at 155, but even when you look at his performances against Fiziev, and you look at his performance against Dustin Poirier, it's pretty clear that Gaethje has made some significant improvements. And when you parlay that factor alongside with the fact that the last time we saw Holloway at 155 against Dustin Poirier, he got hurt multiple times, a lot of fans certainly became worried about Max Holloway in this matchup, about this potentially being the first time that Holloway not only gets dropped, but also the first time that he might even get finished. But before we get into why I think Max Holloway can not only win this matchup but also dominate, let's quickly take a look at both of these guys' games to see what they do well out there. And let's start with Justin Gaethje. So obviously, as I mentioned before, Justin Gaethje has been extremely impressive ever since making it to the UFC. And the reason for why he's been able to be so successful has to be due to his stand-up ability. When you watch Gaethje out there, it's pretty clear that he gets into a lot of firefights, but he is relatively technical in those fights. Gaethje does a nice job at utilizing his jab, utilizing very nice uppercuts, nice hooks and crosses, and at the end of the day, in terms of Gaethje's boxing, there is a lot to like about it. He has a good amount of speed when he does throw his shots, he does have a really good amount of power, as he was able to drop and knock out a bunch of guys over the years, and the great thing about Gaethje's boxing is it's only gotten better, only more technical, and of course with the added size that he's put on as of late, you would assume that his shots are even that much more powerful now. But besides just his great boxing ability, Gaethje also does a tremendous job at utilizing his kicks. Of course, in the past, Gaethje did a great job at throwing kicks to the legs. That was probably his main weapon on the feet, but as his career has progressed, Gaethje has done a great job at utilizing those leg kicks, but also utilizing great body kicks and great head kicks, as he was most recently able to knock out Dustin Poirier with a perfectly timed and a perfectly set up head kick. But a couple of things that jump out to me mostly about Gaethje's stand-up ability has to be A, his chin, B, the power within the punches that he does throw, and C, of course, his kicks. Gaethje has a phenomenal ability to be very successful on the feet in a lot of different ways, and I think we've definitely seen that over the years, and we've also seen him get even better at a lot of those different aspects that I mentioned over the years as well. But besides his stand-up game, Gaethje doesn't really have all that much else besides it. He does have really good takedown defense, as he was a pretty good wrestler in college, but if the fight does get to the ground, Gaethje doesn't really have anything. He does look lost a lot of times on the ground, he has no jiu-jitsu, he doesn't even really have a good understanding of where to be on the ground, so overall Gaethje just wants to keep the fight on the feet as long as possible. But in this fight against Max Holloway, I fully expect that to be the case. But now, let's move on to Max Holloway and see what he does well out there. So obviously, similarly to Justin Gaethje, Holloway has been extremely impressive in the UFC and extremely entertaining. And mostly what Holloway does out there is utilize his great stand-up game. On the feet, Holloway does a tremendous job at utilizing his boxing. Whether that means his jab, his left or right straight, uppercuts, hooks, and crosses. Of course, he has a great ability to switch stances as well. In terms of Holloway's boxing, it's clear that it's very elite. And although he doesn't necessarily have one-punch knockout power, what Holloway does out there is utilize a bunch of different strikes in order to tire out his opponents and hurt his opponents over time and either get decision victories or late TKO stoppages. But besides his great boxing ability, Holloway also has an ability to kick. Although it isn't necessarily nearly the best aspect of his game, he can throw kicks to the legs at times. But a couple things that jump out to me most about Holloway's game has to be his legendary chin. Of course, he's never even been dropped in the UFC, but also has to be his great boxing. Holloway is extremely technical out there, and he does a great job at being extremely successful regardless of who he's fighting out there. Now, in terms of his ground game, Holloway definitely has more than Justin Gaethje has, as he does have some pretty good jiu-jitsu, and he does have some ability on the ground, but as I mentioned before, I fully expect this fight to be on the feet, so this point is kind of pointless. But now, let's get into my prediction for this matchup between Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, and let's get into why I'm picking Max. Well, in my opinion, I definitely do think this fight can go either way. Obviously, there is a lot of valid points for why people think Gaethje's gonna win. They think the leg kicks are gonna be a huge thing due to the fact that Gaethje is tremendous at leg kicking, and also due to the fact that Max Holloway has definitely had issues with leg kicks in the past, and they also think Gaethje's gonna win due to the fact that he has more power than Poirier, and the last time we saw Holloway move up to 155, he was getting hurt by Poirier quite a bit. But although all those factors are certainly true and do have credence to it, at the end of the day, I do think people are overlooking a couple things. I think people are overlooking the fact that Holloway has been working on his leg checking ability, and of course he can switch stances, so I do think that's going to help him out tremendously. But also, I think the biggest thing that people are overlooking is the last time that Holloway moved up to 155, it was on relatively short notice and he wasn't able to bulk up whatsoever. When you watch Max Holloway out there against Dustin Poirier, it's pretty clear that he wasn't in shape whatsoever. He was essentially just a fatter Max Holloway. But when you look at what Holloway's doing for this fight against Gaethje, he's clearly been doing it the right way. He's eating well, he's bulking up, he looks a lot bigger now than he did at 145, and I fully expect us to see a much better Max Holloway at 155 now as compared to what we saw back in the day against Dustin Poirier. I think Holloway is going to be able to take shots a lot better. I think Holloway might even have more power now than he did prior, and at the end of the day, I think due to the fact that he's doing it the right way, I don't necessarily think his cardio is going to be affected all that much due to this bulk up that we're seeing from Max. So at the end of the day, the real reason for why I'm picking Max Holloway is due to his boxing ability. I think this is going to be a firefight. I think both guys are going to have success, but at the end of the day, I think Holloway is going to be able to take a lot of the shots that Gaethje throws at him, and I do think the jab of Holloway, and I do think the overall pressure and pace that Holloway is going to put on Justin Gaethje can really give Justin a lot of problems. And at the end of the day, my official prediction for this matchup is Max Holloway via decision. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening in this fight, as it's definitely going to be a real firefight and an extremely exciting one to watch. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Max Holloway has a chance to win this matchup, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.